We've got a very special interview today. I'm excited to say that we have Jean-Marc Jacobson from RealT here on the line. As we have addressed on the security tokenization in the past, RealT is actually a pioneer in the tokenization industry. You guys have tokenized over $100 million worth of real estate since 2019. This is nothing new to you guys, but you have been accused by the city of Detroit and actually under a lawsuit right now. I know we can't talk too much about certain matters, but we do want to address the situation because this is seen as a bad thing, of course, not just for RealT, but for the RWA industry. And there's a lot of rampant rumors going around, and the only best way to address this is to hear from the other side of the coin. No pun intended here. But of course, thank you for taking the time for being here. Jean-Marc, maybe a quick background on you and RealT.
Thank you for having me, and it's a pleasure to be here. Quick background on us. My brother and I, we're both co-CEOs of RealT. We come from the real estate world. We are Canadian. We started in Canada, then we expanded to the US. That was from the 1990s all the way to the late 2010s, I would say. In 2012, yes, 11 and 12, we discovered Bitcoin. We became very excited about it, and we decided to go full ahead into the space. We had sold most of our real estate portfolio by then, so we became one of the first industrial Bitcoin miners in the USA, and we created the first Bitcoin embassy in the world, which was located in Montreal. Our aim was always to join both technologies, both passions, which was real estate and blockchain, which was not possible from a technological point of view until Ethereum came out. So we could create specific tokens that represented assets. And then, but it was still not possible from a legal point of view. You can have a token that says it represents part of a property, but legally you can say what you want, but it's not true. That changed in the US in 2018 with precedents. And when we were informed by those cases, by our legal team, we decided to create RealT. By the time it got around to having all the legal documents and all the structuring and all this, we started in February 2019. And RealT, therefore, its purpose was to tokenize real estate investment, allow people to invest in real estate at a very small level, starting at $50, see what passive income can do for you, build your portfolio through times, and more importantly, choose the type of property you wanted to invest in, the city, the type of property or even the country. That was the objective. And we also wanted to have the tenants being able to buy tokens of the properties they lived in. But that unfortunately was more complex from a regulatory point of view, and we're not there yet, even today.
So, to capture what you're saying here is you guys are actually, you and your brother who started RealT, you're real estate entrepreneurs turned Bitcoin technology entrepreneurs, right? That culminated into this real estate tokenization company called RealT. And to date, you guys have tokenized properties, obviously in the city of Detroit, which we're going to get to, but tell me some of the other states and countries you're currently operating in.
We have tokenized properties in Detroit, obviously, in Chicago, in Cleveland, in Toledo, in the state of Georgia, in Texas, in various cities in Texas, in Florida, in quite a few in Atlanta. So quite a few cities in Atlanta as well. So we are in various states in the US. We're also present in Central America and Panama, where we've done some pre-construction and tourism properties. And in Colombia, now we also have some pre-construction there. We're growing we're currently signing deals in 2 other countries in Latin America. And we are looking at deals in Eastern Europe currently that we are about to close as well.
So I think it's fair to say you do have a majority of your current tokenized assets in Detroit, but it's clear to say you guys are also global. You've managed to, let's say, take this tokenization protocol and infrastructure and scale it, right, from city to city, from country to country. And I know you guys are continuing to expand, but that's not the main focus for today, obviously. because as we know, the power of tokenization and decentralization doesn't mean the responsibility falls away. And in a way, it looks like the city of Detroit is painting RealT as a slumlord of sorts that has, neglected a bunch of violations, numerous, that we're going to get to, and a sort of, a blight to the community. Now, I think there's more than meets the eye. I want to hear it from you. There's clear violations between the various different properties that have been, allocated here. What are you guys doing to address that and fix these issues for the tenants?
I'd like to begin by saying that when we created RealT, we were the first to do tokenization, and we immediately wanted to go global for sure. We had identified Detroit as the first concentric circle we wanted to grow into, which means that we want to identify a place where we see there's potential to grow into in the short term and long term. There's a potential to have both yield and capital appreciation in the long term. And we grow in concentric circles because you get economies of scales, which means you choose a place, you buy one property, then two, then three, you try to be in the same area and you grow. And we try to do that by and large in most places where we have invested. But when RealT was created, from the get-go, the mandate was never to do property management. We couldn't. We wanted to be global. There was no way we would be able to do property management in various countries. And it was not the mission of RealToken Technologies Inc. to do that. Our mission was tokenization and distributing the tokens. So, and creating services, Web3 services applied to real estate, which we have done. And that was the mission. The management had to be outsourced from city to city to local managers that are close to their communities and just give us reports. And this works. It works. Generally, it works rather well. Unfortunately, even though we were told that in Detroit, things are different, the tenants are very difficult, I have to tell you, Herwig, the tenants in Detroit are not more difficult than any other place in the world. However, in Detroit, we're unfortunate, and I don't think it's a representation of the city, but we're unfortunate to fall on some bad actors. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. So perhaps it behooves us. We didn't know how to correctly select them, maybe whatever. But I cannot speak too much about that because there are litigations. But
sure.
But yes, the management of the properties was not done properly in many cases. Not in all cases, but in many cases. And there are some properties that are in a very bad state. It is absolutely true. And we were absolutely floored to discover some of the state of some of the properties. And some of them went from bad to good very quickly. I went from good to bad very quickly in a very short amount of time. Between one visit to the pictures, in about 6 months, we saw things happen that were astonishing. So we realized the extent of it, I would say, in November, December 2024.
Yeah. So you've basically, to summarize, you've addressed that. You've been made aware of all violations. You're looking into basically all of it as much as you can. A lot of it seems to have been inherited or from third parties that are out of your control. So you are overall, yes, committed to fixing this. Of course, it sounds like. So I want to hear that again, and I want to hear sort of your solution to how you go around preventing this again in the future.
We are absolutely committed to fixing it, and to fix it not just one time, but to make sure it doesn't happen ever again. What did we do? We immediately activated our own property management company in Detroit, which, quite frankly, was never the mandate. So we didn't do it under RealT's name. We created a new company that's a sister company, perhaps, but not a daughter company. It's on the side. We did that in December 2024. We activated a small company that we had just to test software. We decided it's going to become the property management company for all of RealT's assets. We found through a headhunter a professional. His name is Sal. He came in as the managing director, and he started alone, basically, in the company. And as of January, Started in December 2024. Okay, in January he started employing people, creating a local team with local people from Detroit, and we invested into this company called New Detroit Property Management Company. To be clear, Herwig, nobody invests in a property management company if they don't have a long-term vision or long-term desire. It's a lot of investment. You have a lot of employees. It's labor intensive. You have high salary. You have a lot of salaries to pay. You have equipment. You have software. You have to create teams that get along with each other from scratch. So you get people, and sometimes, well, they don't work out. So it takes time to build a team. And yet, that's exactly what we did with New Detroit Property Management. We created that team. We created that company. We have a core team now. We have more people coming in, or we had more people coming in until the city decided to attack us. But since January, immediately, we called every department of the city. That's one of the first things we did. We were in contact with the city. We did a tax payment restructuration plan with the city, which we respect scrupulously. Okay, we've been following it because we realized that even taxes were late, in some instances too late. We did we called Mishta, BC. We worked with all the departments and we started renovating. At that moment, the city went into a turbo ticketing mode for blight violations. So not only did we have to take care of the renovations, of the rehabs, of creating a team, of investing into a new property management company with a hostile takeover. Understand, when the hostile transition, I mean, when we transitioned from the previous property managers to New Detroit, we didn't get the leases, we didn't get the rents, the security deposits, we didn't get the keys. So we had to figure our way out through all this, and we did. And we were gaining momentum. And we did renovations. We renovated over 25 entire single-family residents in less than 5 months. 25 of them were, and from really a place that was not rentable at all, with huge number of violations, to a rented, beautiful property. And we even have some tenants thanking us for the beautiful home that we provided to them. It doesn't happen overnight, though. We wish we could. But it's real estate. Real estate is slow. It takes time, and we're building our team. We need momentum. We have some violations now that so we had in addition to all that, we had to go and court and argue those violations that were coming like for no apparent other reason than us trying to do the right thing. So, and we were doing it, and we were addressing them.
Yeah.
But when you get 3 violations at the same day for the same thing, something is off. It's like, please, let's
I'm hearing a lot. I'm hearing a lot of things that certainly don't paint the picture that is certainly being spelled out by the allegations by the city of Detroit here. And it certainly seems like you are doing everything you can to do things by the book, and by no means had any intention of ever, maintaining that, which is, I think, what everyone certainly wants to hear and know. But most importantly, you've now said that you're now removing the risk, or at least taking responsibility for future violations and issues, right? Because now you are inheriting, which it makes sense. You're getting a lot of friction from the business. You're taking away from the property managers and taking that from them. And it's a business you never even wanted to do, but now you have to do, given this reputational liability, also the responsibility to the tenants, right? It's something that is now part of the infrastructure, whether you kind of like it or not. But it does mean that you are, A to Z, putting back into the community to
absolutely
that any RealT property in the future is now 100%, right?
Thank you very much for underlining this. The purpose also of New Detroit Property Management was to stop saying it's not my fault, it's theirs. Here we're the first line. We are there. We take care of everything. There's a problem, you come to us. It cannot repeat. The same problem cannot repeat, and we are here. If there's a problem, we would be responsible as of now. That's it. And that's why it was created, to have a direct link with the city, a direct link with our tenants, a direct link with our token holders. And the idea was even to link both softwares of property management directly into RealT's platform. That's a little bit more challenging than we thought, with some edge cases that get complicated, but that's a side issue. But yes, that's exactly the intent.
So let's get into that a little bit more, right? Because you now have, I think you've addressed this, forward-looking way to prevent this from happening. You're now going in and making sure you can try to address this. You've even acknowledged that you've been working with the city even before they attacked you, if you will.
Yes.
And more importantly, what I'm hearing, what I just picked up on, is that actually a lot of these violations weren't even directed directly, I guess, to you guys. It sounds like they've been in place for quite some time. Let's talk about a case example here of just one of these properties, right?
You have a good research department. So that's part of the situation, which is a little bit incomprehensible. But yes, we have, as I said, they went into a turbo ticketing mode, and when they filed the suit against us, they had hundreds upon hundreds of blight violations. Now, let me give you an example of a property that had 12 violations. 12. And I'll send you the document for your file so that you can, as a reporter, make sure that everything is in. And 12 is a lot. It by no means is it nothing, So 2 of them we fixed. We went to court. We closed them. It was about $400 of violations, and maybe for 20, we did what we had to do. We paid them. That's 2 out of the 12. The 10 other violations were for issues that were before we even ever acquired the property. Some of them dating back as far back as 2005. I remind you, we entered the market in 2019, and really our investment started in 2020, because in 2019 we had 1 or 2 or 3 properties maximum. That's all. So it wasn't. There were various owners in between all that time. So the 10 others, 10 out of 12, were for violations prior to our acquisition. And when we acquired the property, there was no lien against the properties. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to transfer title. So it makes it a little bit difficult for us then to put things square and to say, okay, we'll pay what we want all this, because we have to go pay lawyers or pay further people in our team to go and argue them at court on saying, look, this is not reasonable. And it takes time. And while we have to argue this, as long as there are some violations inscribed, you cannot get a certificate of compliance unless you go a special route, which we just discovered yesterday. So all this, is make things drag on uselessly, unnecessarily, costs money. It makes situation more difficult. It slows down tremendously our rehabilitation of the properties process. We are renovating. We've addressed hundreds of blights, hundreds as well. It's since January. We've renovated over 24 properties, as I said, close to 30 as of today. We have signed with contractors some renovations of multifamily residences on a large scale. So they started the work last week. The deposits have been made and they're starting to work. But it seems that as of today, nobody is really wanting to listen about all the efforts we made. And is it perfect? Of course not. Can we do everything that the city wants us to do? We want to, but we can't in just the snap of a finger. It's impossible. It takes time. We have to build our team. We have to hire the right contractors. Some contractors we hired were not what we thought. The result had to be redone. We did, and we intend to get better and to continue and to have respectful, compliant residences for all of our tenants. Absolutely.
And that is I think the way things are being painted, I mean, I have to assume, legal costs are obviously huge investments into the properties that sound to me like were never going to be done by the previous owner. So had they not sort of, I don't want to use the word fooled, but it sounds like maybe slightly, into it, passing along these liabilities and these violations to you guys, you are the only ones here to actually clean it up, despite the fact that the city of Detroit is actually, impeding your ability to go about fixing up these properties and addressing this, or at least willingness and even trying to understand that, it sounds like, again, the fact that you aren't given certain property records and certain, lease records from previous managers, I can't imagine that makes things easy to try to be compliant for, despite your best efforts. So
Herwig, I would underline there. You're absolutely right, but I would underline more than the responsibility falling on the previous owners and all this. The previous owners, their job was to sell. That's all. And there was no official lien on it. They were not lying about that. The management was the issue. Yes, management and the people we decided to hire in-house to make sure that the renovations were done properly. We had a team and all this. These were the issues. These were the problems. That's why we created new Detroit property management to be responsible directly and to make sure that there's progress that can be documented, that can be showed to the city. And we have been doing it. It's been what? We're in August. It's been 7 months now. Within the 8 months only. Give us time, but we're doing it and we're showing good results.
Well, certainly, I know you can't comment to this, so we're going to move past this because I don't want to touch too much legal matters. I know this is going to come out in court, and for those who aren't in America, like that's how this works, right? The city has to present a case, and they're going to present a case that is going to be as everything they can throw at you, and the rest has to be settled and determined in court. And frankly, sometimes when it comes to the cities and municipalities, a lot of the time, this could be politically motivated. Now, I don't know what the situation is. It's not what we need to get into here. But it certainly is, to me, not the case of you guys are a bunch of slumlords purposely trying to defraud people. This seems like innovation and technology that, in fact, to me, is translating to improvements in the community down the road. And, maybe perhaps in a bit of sensational growth, right? And the ability to scale tokenization, which that's the novelty that you have created here, which you've expanded well beyond Detroit, now has, hit its first bump in the road, no doubt about it, to learn from, right? And to put in now an even more improved infrastructure with your own management company as a separate company to make sure that, you can actually represent the tenants, the properties, just as much as you are representing the investors and the token holders, all of the innovation, right? That I'd love to kind of end on here in these last few minutes is just, I'm sure this is taking up quite a majority of your time. I know it is. You just addressed it, but this isn't going to stop RealT. So, beyond putting in place the new management company, addressing these violations and getting this sorted, what else is on the radar for RealT? What's next? Where does growth continue to look like as we enter what seems to be a super cycle for tokenization for RWAs? Let's not forget, despite all this happening, right, we have the president of America and the commissioner of the chairman of the SEC endorsing tokenization, literally saying we want RealT. That's literally what they're saying. We want a RealT economy. But you have this situation going on. So tell us what's next, Jean-Marc.
Who would have thought, Herwig? When we started in 2019, tokenization was, this has to be a scam. It doesn't exist. You cannot tokenize anything. And then when Larry Fink from BlackRock started saying tokenization, like 4 years later, tokenization is the future, everything tokenization, all of a sudden people are like, oh, RealT, maybe you had something there after all, Very true. I remember the beginning. It's like, what is it all about? So yes, it's been quite a quick turnaround in less than 6 years. We were the first ones to really use blockchain technology to do real world assets, real estate. Today, everybody is talking about it and wants to do it. The reality is that there are a lot of projects coming on where tokenization doesn't make a lot of sense. It's just a buzzword. But in others, it makes a lot of sense when you combine it with the power of blockchain and the power of apps that are available on blockchain now. For instance, it is possible today to take a token that you own that represents an asset, go on a platform, just drop it on it, borrow against your token, and go and buy something else with the money, and your token it's still yours, and it still brings you income. But you have money, and you buy other stuff with it. The idea, you can buy a cup of coffee if you want, but the idea is to buy more tokens of a real world asset. That is something that you do with 3 clicks. Try to mortgage a property or to borrow against a property in 3 clicks. You can't. Anywhere in the civilized world, you can't. End of story. So these are just examples. Liquidity, making more liquidity available. You don't like the experience of tokenization? Okay. Then there's a type of bulletin board where you can say, I want to sell my tokens, and people will come and say, I'm interested at that price, and they click, and that the transaction is done. Or you can sell back to the issuer, but that's outside the issue. It's more complex administratively. So you have the possibility of borrowing, which never existed before with this ease. You have the possibility of selling. You have the internationalization of tokenization. Tokenization allows for foreigners that wanted to invest in a given country to be able to with a click. Now, of course, you have to go through KYC, AML. There's no anonymity. It's real estate. It's real world assets. Forget the fact of even, it's not even pseudo anonymous. You know directly who owns what at every single second. Okay, that's for sure. But all of a sudden, international investments become a breeze. Here it is. It's available. Click, I buy it. That's it, done. Once your KYC is done. It's never been done before. So these are the beauties. What are we working on? Making the technology even easier to use. Abstract account is a big plus right now. Basically giving you a Web 2 interface to a Web 3 power tool underneath. We've been working for a lot of months now. It's nearly done. We're on the stage, and now soon you'll be able to do everything just with a Web 2 interface while remaining non-custodial. And this is a tour de force, like we say. We're looking at other countries as well to invest into. I mentioned Eastern Europe, I think, but Eastern Europe is really for us going to be a focus, along with some countries in Latin America and Africa. Asia, we're looking for a partner in Asia. And we have also a lot of demand for a white label of our technology for other assets than real estate.
Sure.
And that has been a big area of development for us. We've already tested it once, and we are about to sign a few contracts on that.
Wow. So what I'm hearing there is an improvement on the sort of Web 2 enablement and user experience, expansion of countries and more options to invest in, and frankly, a potential expansion of the ecosystem beyond real estate with other partners, to become sort of that global beyond, global real estate beyond as well, right? Beyond just that. The super app, as people like to say. I don't want to, I'll say it for you. With that, Jean-Marc, that is all the time we have. I appreciate you coming on to address this. We will see these developments naturally play out as well over time. So we'll get you back on as things continue. But we appreciate you addressing this and frankly taking on the mantle, right? Of you guys are a pioneer in the space, and I appreciate you guys doing the right things to address this and move forward. So I hope everybody else takes that message away from this too. And with that, we'll move on with the show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jean-Marc.